It's finally happening. Touch ID is returning to the iPhone, though it might not be coming back in the way that you're expecting. We've just been absolutely flooded with so much news about the iPhone 13 lately that I think now is just a great time to kind of sift through all the new info, debunk some myths, and just tell you absolutely everything we know and everything you need to know about the upcoming iPhone 13. And a huge thanks to Bandwork for sponsoring this video. Now, before we can get into all the exciting Touch ID news, I just kind of have to take a step back for just a second and kind of just set your expectations a bit for what we're expecting with the iPhone 13. Because the more we hear about this device, and especially the more kind of leaks out from inside Cupertino, the more we're hearing that this is going to be more of an S year, more of an incremental update for the iPhone, whereas the iPhone 12 saw a big design change and we got a lot of new features. The iPhone 13 will still include some of that, but no big design overhaul, no big changes. That's probably going to be reserved for 2022 with the iPhone 14. So if you're a fan of how the iPhone 12 and 12 Pro looks now, kind of that industrial design, squared off edges, you guys kind of know how the phone looks these days. That is basically what we're going to see with the iPhone 13, which is going to stick with pretty much the exact same design we have right now with the iPhone 12 series. But with that being said, we also are expecting some bigger than usual changes to come to the iPhone 13, more than I would really classify in an S year. Yes, there's going to be a lot of new changes under the hood. The internals are going to get quite the upgrade with the iPhone 13, but there are some other slightly cosmetic changes that should also change as well, but more on that in a bit. Let's start with what we know for sure. Under the hood in the iPhone 13 will be the all-new A15 Apple Silicon processor. We know that Apple is aggressively doubling down efforts to push their silicon to the max and to really get as much power and performance and efficiency out of these chips as possible. And the A14 we have in the 12 Pro and 12 series right now is certainly no slouch. And as we see Apple continue to push their desktop processors in the MacBook Pros and the iMacs and their whole Mac lineup, I just cannot wait to see more of that kind of crossover with the iPhone, and the iPhone continue to get more powerful, more efficient, and really just blow the competition out of the water, even more so than what it's doing right now with what we have in the iPhone 12 Pro. One rumor that has been sort of picking up steam over the past couple of days, thanks to some credible Apple analysts, is that the iPhone 13 might feature a vapor chamber cooling system inside to keep all the components cool and running as efficient as possible. Now, obviously, we've seen this with PCs for a while. We've also seen this with smartphones recently. Huawei's using something like this, Samsung as well. So Apple wouldn't be the first to implement something like this, but it would mean some big new upgrades are coming to the iPhone's internals, specifically with how we kind of use them. For example, right now the iPhone is passively cooled. So if you were to sit down and watch a lot of streaming video or play a lot of games, you'll notice the phone starts to get a little warm to the touch. Not uncomfortable, not like you're gonna burn yourself or anything like that, but it just starts to get a little too warm to hold for a prolonged period of time just because how the iPhone is currently cooled. Having this new vapor chamber cooling system would obviously do a better job of dissipating that heat. It would also keep all the internals better cooled, which would mean better performance, better battery life, better efficiency, basically just good things all around. We're also hearing that the iPhone 13 series might be a little bit thicker than what we have with the iPhone 12 and 12 Pro, so that could possibly mean a bit of a bigger battery inside as well, which is always a very welcomed addition. Switching gears a bit, let's talk about cameras. Now, this is one thing that has been kind of very back and forth in the Apple rumor mill about what Apple is going to do with the cameras on the iPhone 13 lineup. On one hand, we're hearing this is an S year. Apple really isn't looking to make a lot of big improvements. We're probably going to see more software upgrades rather than hardware changes. But on the other hand, the flip side, we're hearing that Apple might take a lot of what they've learned and what they've engineered on the iPhone 12 Pro Max and kind of bring that down the line to the Pro series of the iPhone 13, as well as the iPhone 13 and iPhone 13 mini. For example, one rumor suggests that Apple is going to make the 13 Pro and Pro Max the exact same phone spec for spec. So they'll have the same telephoto distance, they'll have the same main sensor, which is a little bit different than what we have on the 12 Pro and Pro Max right now. It looks like Apple is going to consolidate that with the iPhone 13 series. We're also hearing that Apple is going to be taking the LiDAR sensor from the Pro series and bringing it down the line to all the iPhone 13 models. So the mini all the way to the Pro Max, all of those phones will have the LiDAR scanner built in, as well well as the sensor shift stabilization technology. So right now that is a Pro Max feature only, but it looks like that's gonna make its way down the line, not just to the Pro, but also to the 2 non-Pro iPhones as well. Now this doesn't mean that the telephoto lens is gonna go to the mini or the regular 13. That's probably not going to happen because that's a big selling point for the Pro model, but just about everything else, LiDAR and the sensor shift technology should be there on all iPhones as well, which is a super great addition to see. Before we continue on with all the new iPhone 13 news, if you had noticed throughout this video kind of this subtle blue leather iPhone case on my iPhone 12 Pro and you're interested in learning more, then you gotta check out this video sponsor, Bandwork. They give your Apple device the attention it deserves with a custom, personalized, and ultra premium look with some of the highest quality leather accessories, handmade by some of the best materials found around the world. Not only does the case look just downright gorgeous, but it's 100% handmade in Italy from ultra premium Napa leather. So it's thin, it's lightweight, it's comfortable, but it's also durable enough to kind of withstand your day-to-day usage as you use your iPhone. And if you're more of a MagSafe wallet person these days, thanks to MagSafe being built into the iPhone 12, Bandwork has also got you covered in that department as well with 2 options. But personally, my favorite accessory from Bandwork has to be their lineup of beautifully crafted and designed Apple Watch bands. Now these bands are made to perfectly complement the Apple Watch on your wrist. Whether you go with ostrich, Cordovan, Saffiano, or Napa, you're getting an extremely high quality leather watch band made with some of the best materials from around the world. So give your iPhone and Apple Watch the care and attention they deserve by picking up an ultra premium case from the folks at Bandwork. They've got a bunch of different cool items in their lineup for the iPhone, the Apple Watch, even AirPods in there as well. Bandwork has you covered with ultra premium, high quality leather accessories for all your different Apple devices. If you want to learn more and pick one up for yourself, which I highly recommend you do, check out the link we've included right down below. Next, let's move on to one of the biggest parts of the iPhone 13, probably the one with the biggest change coming, and that is all about the display. Yes, at long last, after multiple years of rumors, the iPhone 13 should be finally getting a high refresh rate ProMotion display. Now, we don't know if this is going to be coming to all the iPhones. Rumor has it right now that it's probably going to be just the 13 Pro and Pro Max that get it. But yes, 1 or 2 iPhones should at least get a high refresh rate 120 Hz display. Obviously, we've had this on the iPad Pro for a while. We've seen this on multiple Android devices at this point. It looks like Apple is going to be adopting LTPO backplane display technology in order to make ProMotion happen. And I know we had heard this last year, then battery life concerns came up and it was reportedly axed at the last minute. I know some people don't really care about it, but whatever your feelings might be, it's finally going to be coming to the iPhone, at least 1 or 2 models, and it should at least be an option. So if you're someone who really enjoys that super buttery smooth, high refresh rate technology, it should be an option at least on the Pro and Pro Max iPhone 13. But that is not all, not even close, because it looks like Touch ID is returning to the iPhone in the form of an under-display fingerprint reader. So Touch ID is actually moving under the display, and you'll be able to use both Face ID and Touch ID to unlock your all-new iPhone 13. Now this is super exciting for a couple of different reasons, but let me just clarify one point. We're still a little far away from production happening, so this could possibly change. And there also are a couple of questions on the logistics of this happening. Remember that we had seen Apple take the Touch ID tech and move it into the power button of the iPad Air, so there still is a prevailing theory out there that Apple could do that for the iPhone instead of building it under the display. It would just be way easier just to build it into the power button, which would also work just fine, just wouldn't be as cool. The other question is, how big is this sensor going to be? Is it going to be like a little teeny tiny area that you're going to have to get your thumb on just right in order to work? Is it going to be a much larger area, like patents have suggested that maybe the bottom third or the bottom quarter of the display works as sort of a Touch ID surface, so as long as you put your finger anywhere there, it's going to unlock? Is it going to be an ultrasonic sensor? Is it going to be some other technology? We're not exactly sure what Apple is going to use to make this happen, but it looks like it's finally going to be a reality. So all that is exciting, but let me just kind of bring you a little bit more back down to reality. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, but I do have some bad news about the notch, or I guess not some bad news, but some not so great news. Because I know many of you are really waiting for the notch to finally disappear, that maybe with the iPhone 13, the notch would finally disappear, all the Face ID technology would go under the display, and you would get what the concepts have shown us to be this beautiful, unintrusive display that has no pop-ups, no notches. It's just a nice, beautiful pane of glass that is uninterrupted by anything. Unfortunately, that's not gonna happen. It looks like the notch is here to stay at least another year, but it's going to change a little bit. It's gonna shrink ever so slightly by the depth though, not by the width. So it's gonna be just as wide, it's just gonna be a little bit shallower, so it shouldn't protrude into your display as much as the current notch right now. From what we've seen online, it doesn't look like it's gonna be a huge change, slightly noticeable if you look at the notches side by side, but nothing too big, but at least it's a step in the right direction, that the notch is working to get smaller and eventually it should go away, so that is not going to happen this year with the iPhone 13. Rounding out the list of changes or non-changes, capacity should probably be about the same. We're still gonna have all the 5G support built in as well. Colors will probably be the same, though we should hear more about this as we get closer to launch, and pricing should remain just about the same. Also, even though the iPhone 12 mini sales were poorer than expected, Apple is still expected to keep the mini around for the iPhone 13, so at least for another year. So you'll have the exact same lineup as the 12, you'll have the 13 mini, the 13 Pro, and Pro Max, all in the exact same screen sizes that should look pretty much identical to what you have now with the 12 series. But we're not done just yet. One more thing we need to talk about is the port on the iPhone. Are we sticking with Lightning? Are we going to USB-C? Or are we going to get a no port option altogether? And we've heard from multiple analysts, very credible analysts and publications by the way, that the iPhone in 2021, at least one model, is expected to ditch the port altogether. We're expecting MagSafe to kind of reign supreme as the default way for you to charge your phone. You'd obviously be able to charge as fast as MagSafe could charge, but you're kind of limited to charging wirelessly either with MagSafe or Qi technology, and there would be no way to physically plug in a cable to your phone, which does raise some questions. What if you had to bring your phone in for some diagnostic tests? What if you needed to use something like a gimbal that has to be direct attached to the phone for control and like a wired backup? Could you even do that? And there are a couple of theories right now that could kind of make up for the lack of a port. One theory is that MagSafe could be possibly adapted to be able to carry some sort of data current. So right now it's obviously just pushing power to charge your phone, and there is some NFC action going on as well with cases and other supported accessories, but possibly MagSafe could actually push some amount of data through that connection as well. That's one theory. Or probably the more likely theory is that Apple would take the smart connector technology we have on the iPad and bring that over to the iPhone. The funny thing is that we've seen dummy models and concepts of the iPhone with a smart connector on the bottom for years now. I think the 6, 6S, those had some leaked reported images floating around with a smart connector built in. We know that Apple is very much working on this, and there has to be some kind of wired solution for CarPlay, for diagnostics, for just wired interface stuff. There is a compelling reason to keep some sort of wired interface around, and this would be kind of a great best of both worlds scenario. There is no port, everything can happen totally wirelessly, but if you did need to somehow direct attach a cable or something to the phone, you could use the smart connector as kind of the interface in order to make that happen. So we are expecting to see possibly a portless iPhone, but it could just be one or two. Maybe it's just the high-end Pro Max, maybe it's the Pro, maybe it's both Pro models. It probably won't make its way fully down the line and be fully portless this year, though there is still hope that we could see at least one portless iPhone this year with the iPhone 13 when it launches sometime this fall. All right, and that is it. And as always, I'm very curious to hear your thoughts. Are you super excited about the iPhone 13? Is this a bigger deal than the rumors are suggesting? Or do you think this is more of an S year? It's more boring stuff and you're gonna be waiting another year for the iPhone 14 to see any major changes? I don't know. I mean, Touch ID under the display, better cameras, great form factor, great build quality, A15. I mean, there is a whole lot to get excited about for the iPhone 13, and I cannot wait to see it launch, hopefully at the end of September, early October. There should be no big delays happening with the 13 in the next couple of months. So let me know what you guys have to say about it. Let me know which one you're gonna pick up, if any, and thank you as always for your support of the Apple Circle. We greatly appreciate it. I'm Robert Rosenfeld from the Apple Circle. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see ya in the next one.